flow downhill really hard. Caden Kmet was a kid who, tore his ACL week 1 last year, and he's since rebounded. He's worked his butt off to get back to where he is, and he's playing really well right now. And again, those two guys in the middle have done a great job complementing our D-line and stopping the run.
And then kicking, junior kicker Jaden Boyer. He's 13 for 16 on point after touchdowns. How valuable is that consistency from your kicker?
Yeah, I mean, he's actually a soccer kid. He's, a part-time football kid, full-time soccer kid. But I've had him in class in school the last 2 years. He's a great kid, and he just really kind of wanted to help us out. We were looking for a kicker. Our kicker graduated last year, so he's done a phenomenal job of getting to practice, whenever he can, and getting reps in even after practice to try to be good for us on Friday, and he's done a really good job so far.
I love hearing those soccer kids that go to football. Is there any other players? Obviously, I know you have a bunch, and you have a bunch sitting across from us. Is there any other players that you kind of want to talk about quickly? Any that I didn't mention?
Yeah, I mean, I always, as an offensive line guy and playing in college and coaching the offensive line, I mean, I'm always going to give my guys on the O-line a shout-out. But they've done a phenomenal job. They've, as a staff, we've challenged them, and we've told them point blank, this is your year, or it's not going to be our year. And they've responded really well to that. Have done a phenomenal job running the ball all year around because of them. Again, and you go to our defense, guys like Murray and Moser on the edge at backers have been really good at stopping the run. And overall, we just look at our team as a whole right now. Again, I think the messaging has been good. It's been about the team always, and I think they do a really good job of communicating and trying to fight. Being 4-0, it's tough. Winning obviously gives a lot of confidence, which is great for our team. But we don't want these guys to be complacent and just be okay with that. We have to be peaking and getting into our best football in week 10, 11, 12, as opposed to week 4. So far, I mean, all of our guys have been good. Again, very fortunate to have the group that we do, and we feel that this is a special group, and hopefully that plays out the rest of the year.
And then this Friday, you play Hollidaysburg. They are also 4-0. What challenges do they present, and how is your team looking forward to this game?
Yeah, I mean, had them last year at home. Really well-coached team, disciplined team. But, from an offensive point of view this year, they're really good at running the football. Their quarterback last week had 170 rush yards. So certainly an elusive kid that is going to look to run more times he's going to look to pass, which presents, different challenges for our defense. But certainly, and that's what we look at, is a challenge for them. And we've been really good against the run. But I think they're going to have to step up big again this week in order to shut their quarterback down. But defensively, they show a lot of different looks to the formations that we're going to carry. So it's really about our O-line being prepared and being able to communicate on the fly of how we're going to block things up front. But I mean, it's anytime you have a 4-0 team and a 4-0 team, it's going to be a good game, and it's going to be a game that comes down to winning the line of scrimmage.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight, and I wish you and your team the best.
Brook family for making all of this possible on 88.9 WQSU, the heartbeat of the Susquehanna Valley.
Wise Markets is proud to support WQSU and Riverhawk football. Wise Markets has everything needed to entertain any appetite for tailgating. League Two. Wise Markets is proud to support 88.9 WQSU.
You're in the middle of the WQSU Pigskin Preview, live from Buffalo Wild Wings.
Hello, and welcome back to 88.9 WQSU for the first PA Pigskin Preview of the football season. I'm Brai, Tate, and joining me right now is Daily Item reporter Todd Hummel. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm excited. So each week I will ask Todd who he thinks will win different matchups from District 4. So we didn't do this last week, so I'm just going to go over some games that I think you would be able to talk about. But first off, what game did you cover last week?
Actually out at Shamokin for Jersey Shore and Shamokin.
I was going to ask you about that one.
I would assume that you would. Yeah, that was a big one. Shamokin won 43-42 in double overtime. Well, I mean, they really struggled early in the game. They were down 21-7 at the half. They gave up a fumble return for a touchdown late in the first half. It was one of those games where they couldn't get out of their own way, and they were able to rally and tie the game. And then, Jersey Shore scored first in the second overtime. Shamokin decided they were going to kick the extra point and send it to a third overtime, but Logan Steele, the quarterback, and a couple of the other players convinced Coach Mark Persing to go for two, and they were successful at it, and they remained undefeated. And I don't think this is going to be the only time Jersey Shore and Shamokin play this season. I'm pretty sure, it depends on the way the rankings, play out, if it'll be a semifinal or a final, but I'd be shocked if they didn't play again in the second half in the playoffs this season.
And then the other matchup I was going to ask you is the Class 2A matchup, Bloomsburg winning over Warrior Run 42-28.
Yeah, we were just actually, while you were talking to Coach Botts, the Mifflinburg players was talking with some of the Mifflinburg players, and they had scrimmaged with Bloomsburg, and they were telling me that some of the stuff that Bloomsburg's doing right now they didn't do in that scrimmage, and that's running the quarterback Wyatt Brocious. The last 2 weeks, he's really salted games away for Bloomsburg in the second half, rushing the football against Lewisburg 2 weeks ago and Warrior Run last week. And, the defenders right now, they have another tough one this week with Lewisburg. And, it was Warrior Run's first loss. They're a team that suffered a lot of graduation losses but was playing real well. And it's going to be interesting to see how they bounce back this week against Lewisburg.
And then what team has surprised you so much so far this year? Either they exceeded your expectations or haven't lived up to them so far?
I would say I don't think anybody has not been as good as I thought they were going to be. I'm really surprised about, you guys talked to Mifflinburg. Mifflinburg, faced with basically the same team and facing the same schedule, started last year 0-5 and now has a good chance of starting this season 5-0. We talked a little bit about Bloomsburg. Bloomsburg's a team that, has struggled in recent years, but played real well at the end of last season and in the playoffs, and I think returned 21 of 22 starters, and they're 4-0 right now this season, and they have a real good shot right now. I think they play Southern Columbia yet, so that's going to be a tough one for them, but they have a real good shot to be 9-1 or 8-2 this season.
And then now we're going to go into your picks for each matchup, I guess, that I have. We're going to start off with the Class 1A Montgomery. They are 2-1 versus Canton. They're 1-3. Who do you like?
I like Montgomery in this one. Montgomery played real well. Their only loss is the second week of the season to Warrior Run. Their defense has been playing real well right now, and this is one of those years where Canton's a Class A school, and they're either real good or they're going through one of those where they're developing a team, and I think this is one of those developmental years for them.
And then Class 2A, Wellsboro, they are 2-2 versus Cowanesque. I always mess that one up. Cowanesque Valley, they're also 2-2.
Oh, yeah. And Cowanesque Valley had a real impressive win at the beginning of the season against Towanda, and they're one of the smaller schools in the northern tier. They had their best season a couple years ago, and this appears to be another good team for them. Wellsboro struggled with Montoursville at the beginning of the season, has been playing better right now. I think we'll go with Cowanesque Valley in this one.
All right. And then another Class 2A matchup, Wyalusing Valley versus South Williamsport. Wyalusing is 1-2, and South Williamsport is also 1-2.
Well, South Williamsport last week really struggled with Milton. Monty Fisher of Milton ran for almost 160 yards against them, but I like them in this one. You know, they've played a little tougher schedule right now than Wyalusing has played, and this has been a matchup that's been a real struggle for Wyalusing. And, you know, South Williamsport's one of those programs that people will expect to be in the thick of things in class. And it's Class 2A right now for them, and I think they'll be improved as the season goes on.
Next, I have Hughesville. They're 1-3, and Midwest. They're also 1-3.
When you talk about teams that are improved, when we talked a little bit about that, you know, Midwest has to go in that stretch right there. You know, I think they broke it was almost a 30-game losing streak at the beginning of the season when they beat Central Columbia, and then the second game of the year, you know, they by rights should probably have 2 wins. They were up 2 scores in the fourth quarter before Hamburg rallied, and you know, this is a winnable game for them. Hughesville is not, you know, this isn't one of the best Spartans teams. They've struggled at times this season, and you know, that's the biggest difference right now for Midwest is they're able to generate some offense, which is something they haven't been able to do the last 2 years. And they've had a real good running game this season, and I think that continues. And I actually, for one of the few times on this show, I'm taking the Mustangs.
Hey, okay. I used to go there. If I didn't mention that to you before, I forgot. And then we're moving into Class 3A Danville. They're 1-3 versus Milton. They're 0-3.
Actually, Milton's 1-3.
Oh,
Milton won last week.
Yeah, that wouldn't even make sense. I have a typo on my end.
That's okay. But, you know, like I said, the Black Panthers played real well. Monty Fisher ran for over 100 yards. I think he's the 3rd leading rusher in our area right now with like 402 yards. The big issue for them is their passing game. Monty's had to move over to quarterback. I do think, you know, Danville's, you know, you look at that Danville 1-3 record, that's pretty surprising for a 5-time district champion. But, you know, they struggled in the first 2 weeks of the season against Bloomsburg and Mifflinburg, but I think they found some things to do on offense with Carter Raup at quarterback. They're really concentrating on getting Landon Kehoe the ball. I think I like Danville in this one, and Danville's one of those teams that you're probably lucky you got them in the first couple weeks of the season because I don't think you want them at the end of the season.
And then our last one that I have for you tonight is Class 4A matchup, Shikellamy versus Jersey Shore. They're both 3-1.
This is kind of a measuring stick game for the Braves. They're 3-1. You know, they've played real well. Other than that Shamokin game where they turned the ball over 4 times against the Indians. You know, Brody Raybuck's been outstanding. He's thrown for more than 600 yards, run for almost 300 yards, has rushed for 7 touchdowns. Now, this Jersey Shore team, you know, like I said, I saw them last week. Nolan Pauling, the quarterback, is is real impressive. If you got a chance to see him last year, kind of the way that Elijah Jordan moved around, was able to get the ball downfield. Shore really hasn't changed all that much offensively with a sophomore quarterback. I like the Bulldogs in this one, but I really think that the Braves, you know, will keep this one close for a while.
And then finally, what game are you covering this week?
Actually, I am going to Selinsgrove and Williamsport this week because my daughter is singing the national anthem before the game for the Seals. So I'm going to that one. You know, Selinsgrove's kind of struggled. They got their first win of the season last week against Central Mountain, so I'm kind of interested to see them. And, you know, Shikellamy handled Williamsport last week to deal Williamsport their first loss this season. So I think this is a team that at least Selinsgrove matches up well and should give them a chance to win.
Well, I wish her good luck singing the national anthem.
Well, luckily for her, it's the entire 4th and 5th grade, so it's not just her.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you so much for coming year after year. You're always here.
603-1122. Quality Print Shop in Northumberland is proud to support WQSU.
You're in the middle of the WQSU Pigskin Preview, live from Buffalo Wild Wings.
You're listening to 88.9 WQSU. I'm Brai, and tonight hosting with me is Matt Kaufman. And to start off our night, we had Mifflinburg High School head coach Cody, and then we just had on the Daily Item reporter Todd Hummel, and now we have Susquehanna quarterback Josh Ehrlich. Matt?
Josh, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Of course. Well, let's start with last year. Absolutely incredible year last year, making it to the Final Four. Let's just kind of recap. What was so special about last year for you and for your football team?
It was such a fun year. Like you said, going to the Final Four. We had such a close group of guys in the locker room, and really senior class that led us to reach that level. That I only think one other team has been there before, so it was super cool to play on that stage. I wish it ended a little bit better, but that's what this year's for, and I feel really confident in the group we got going this year to win a lot of games.
Now, last year, you were the first ever Susquehanna quarterback to throw for over 3,000 yards and 30 touchdowns in one season. What does this accomplishment mean to you as a leader on this team, as a champion in the landmark, and to just be so close? But overall, what does this mean to you and your football team to get there?
Right. Well, I think it speaks a lot to the coach culture that Coach Burke brought in with him about 10 years ago now, and then our O coordinator, Coach Weinfeld, having the confidence in me. And then it's really just trust. Trusting the O-line, trusting the guys, giving the ball in space to make plays, and they make me right a lot of times. So that's really it.
Now, one of the things that Coach Perk talked to me about throughout the last couple of weeks is the growth of the players. Being Landmark Conference Player of the Year, what did you see in your growth from 2023 when you kind of got your first licks at the quarterback position to last year, now heading into this year with a 2-0 start?
Definitely a lot. I had some rough stretches in 2023, no doubt. I was off of my first read and then kind of running the ball a lot. And I really settled down in year 2, and I think I'm taking another step in year 3. But that, again, it goes to coaching and then, trusting the guys around me. And there's a reason why Susquehanna's been successful for so long now. It's we're really taught right, and the culture's, on the field, in the locker room, everywhere. It's awesome. So it was really just trust and getting the system under my belt. So I feel more confident than ever right now.
Now, you talked about running the football. You've shown that you've been able to use your versatility in ways with throwing and running, especially on third downs if you don't have that first or second read. How important is it to you to have that versatility to work in this play style of an offense?
Right. Well, we do a lot of quarterback run stuff, which is nice. But like you said, a lot of it's also scramble rules, and I'm lucky to have the trust that the coaches have in me to kind of run around at times. I'd like to not. I should probably stay in there a couple more times than I do and take a couple of those hits and deliver the ball on time. But like I said, it all goes back to trust, and I'm glad the coaches have it in me to, third down, if I need to go get it with my legs, go and get it, because I'm not really shy to use them.
Now, if you were to pick one part of your game for this year, what is it? What part would you focus on the most to improve on?
I would say leadership. I was voted captain in the spring, which is a huge achievement for me, and I'm super blessed and grateful to be a captain on a football team, especially in college. So I think just taking that next step in leadership. We're going to need our older guys who have been in those games, especially this weekend on Saturday, to step up, and I have to be one of those guys.
Now let's kind of head into this season a little bit. Week 2 last week, couple of tough moments on the first couple of drives, a couple of punts on some sacks. Being a leader and a captain like you just mentioned, what are you saying to the guys on the sideline after those 2 tough drives?
Right, calm everyone down. We had a turnover as well, so it kind of kept us off the field at the time. So I was just trying to calm everyone down. There was a lot of time left, a lot of possessions left. That's really what I have to do. I can't get too high, I can't get too low, especially the quarterback, because everyone else sees that and then they start freaking out. So I got to just stay on top of my game and try and bring everyone else up around me.
Now, this past week, you've become the 4th Susquehanna quarterback to ever throw for over 5,000 yards and 50 touchdowns. What does that moment mean to you that you've been able to see the progression that you've had since 2023?
Oh, it's awesome. I didn't know until today. I saw the graphic. But, it's super cool. Like I said, without the offensive line and the guys who I really throw it and then they run for 80. That's all of them. So I think it goes to having such a great team, such a great coaching staff. Without those guys, I'm never able to reach that achievement. So I'm truly honored.
Now, coming into this week, facing the toughest opponent so far this year, number 3 ranked Johns Hopkins Blue Jays, how have you prepared for this game, and what's been the message from Coach Perkovich heading into this huge matchup on Saturday?
We know how big it is, number 3 versus number 4, but it's still business as usual for us. We're not going to do anything different. We're going to go about it. You shouldn't need any extra motivation to play, week 1 or week 3 or week 10. Playing football is playing football, so we're going to go about it the same way. But we know the stakes and everything, so the guys will be juiced up for sure.
Now, you had guys like Kyle House, Chris Buchter last year. Rashawn Lamont has been out for the first couple of weeks of the season with an injury. How big has it been for guys like Morgan Roth and Stolfa to step up in big situations? And Grabowski week 1, Hutchins last week, a couple of big runs. How big has it been for them to step up in a role when you've missed a couple of key pieces due to injuries and to some graduates?
Right, it's huge. We knew we had a young team and we had some guys that had stuff to prove, and they've really proven it in the first couple of weeks, and I feel confident that they'll go out and they'll showcase their abilities, and then probably one of the biggest games of the year and in the country this week. It's really nice having Matt Surtz back last week too. He's a huge key to our offense, and like you said, Morgan Roth, Grabowski, Hutchins, Stolfa, Robbins too. They all guys who are they really stepped up in the preseason. It started last spring, so I'm glad to see them get some glory, make some catches, and hopefully they'll make a lot more this week, and I have to too.
Now, talking to them so much about the offense, let's shy a little bit away. You've seen the defense while you're on the sideline. What's impressed you most about your defense and the run game, especially the way that they could stop it?
We got some studs up front. We knew that coming in. It was tough to move the ball against them in camp, so we knew they were legit on defense. And it's just, the speed they're playing with, the confidence they're playing with, and the scheme that Coach Colo put together. It's really cool to see. So I know they got our back on Saturday and throughout the season.
Now, last question before we got our new segment. What are one of the goals that you have for yourself this year, and just seeing how your growth has been in the last few years, what's a goal that you've really toned in on specifically for this season?
I touched on it earlier. I just want to be the best leader I could be for these guys. Like I said, being a captain is a huge honor, and I really want to be a person that my teammates, talk about when they mention their college captain. I want to be that guy. So kind of just a leadership role, and it's really it.
All right, we're going to do a new segment here. It's going to be called Susquehanna Speed Run. So we're going to go through a couple of quick questions, couple word answers. That's it. Simple. We got about 8 questions for you. You ready?
Oh, God, okay.
All right, here we go. Pre-game ritual.
Oh, pre-game ritual. I got to get an energy drink in, and I like to be alone when I do my taping and get ready. I like to kind of, get my mind focused. Other than that, I'm not really – there's kind of going out there. But definitely got to get an energy drink in.
Go-to hype song.
That's good. I'm a big country before game, but I would say Blue Notes by Meat Mill.
Favorite pre- or post-game meal?
That's tough. I would say Chick-fil-A. Definitely Chick-fil-A.
Ooh. One of your hidden talents that no one really knows about?
I'm a really good spike ball player.
Most hype teammate on the team?
Most hype, Steve Seibert.
If you could meet one NFL quarterback, who would you pick?
Lamar Jackson.
Favorite video game?
Black Ops 2.
If you weren't playing football, what sport would you be playing?
Basketball.
And last one, do you prefer to play hot or cold?
Definitely hot. Yeah. I've been cold quarterback most of my life, and I would rather it be hot.
And then I have one more question. Which uniform is your favorite uniform? If you could just pick one to wear.
To pick one to wear, I like going all white.
Okay.
I think it looks clean. Yeah.
Well, that's all we have for you tonight. Thank you so much for coming by, and best of luck this weekend. I hope to watch a good game from the
wisemarkets.com. The Selinsgrove store is located on Route 522. Wise Markets is proud to support 88.9 WQSU.
Welcome back to 88.9 WQSU for PA Pigskin Preview at Buffalo Wild Wings. I'm Brai, and today I'm joined by
Matt Kaufman.
And Adam.
and Adam. So we just finished our interviews. We had the Mifflinburg High School head coach Cody on, and then we had Daily Item reporter Todd Hummel, and then we just finished with Susquehanna quarterback Josh Ehrlich. And now we're going to go into our roundtable where we're just going to talk sports for the rest of this segment, this hour. So we're going to start off with Monday Night Football. Last night, the Buccaneers at Texans. Buccaneers won 20-19. I didn't watch this. I was asleep. I had to wake up at 4:30 this morning for lift. So if any of you guys want to start.
Yeah, I think I'm been, again, very impressed with the way that Emeka Egbuka has started his career in Tampa Bay, the rookie out of Ohio State. I think Baker Mayfield just straight up is a dog. I mean, he took a big hit from C.J. Gardner-Johnson, got up in his face. Like, he is a gamer no matter which way you look at it. I am super excited to see the continuous growth between Baker Mayfield and the connection with Emeka Egbuka. I think it's going to continue to grow throughout this season, next season, and for a while, as long as Baker Mayfield's the quarterback in Tampa Bay. But just overall, that last drive, trailing 19-14 at the end of the game, Baker Mayfield takes this Tampa Bay offense right down the field like it's nothing. Mike Evans is involved. Everybody's involved. Hits 5 different receivers throughout the game. Just overall a complete quarterback. And you could see there was a much different Baker Mayfield than when he was drafted back in 2018 with the Cleveland Browns. Went from Cleveland to Carolina, struggled a little bit in Carolina, got the starting job taken over. Then he goes really that miracle drive with the LA Rams in LA, and then goes to Tampa Bay, and he is a completely different quarterback. He's taken them to the postseason. He's found connections. And I think that connection with Mike Evans really is one of the best things that has happened to Baker Mayfield's career.
Yeah, I mean, you alluded to almost every point that I was literally going to bring up. I mean, Baker Mayfield has pretty much resurrected his career from when he was drafted in Cleveland and just had to get put into a system where he could fit, and Tampa Bay and Todd Bowles and company was the perfect spot for him, it seems like, and how he's gotten them back to the playoffs in the post-Tom Brady era for Tampa Bay and how good it's been. And like you alluded to Mike Evans as well before, just an all-around receiver who is always going to have that great moment and that final drive, of course, like you said, when they were just cooking on all cylinders on that last drive, and Houston just did it was points where they looked a little unraveled, it seemed like, especially on the defensive side of the ball, and their line wasn't really able to match up with what Tampa Bay had to offer last night.
And I think, too, that when you look at the way that the Houston Texans started in Week 1, it wasn't off to a great start. But then you look at the way that the Houston Texans played yesterday, much better. It seemed like it struggled to get that second half going, really, for both teams. Buccaneers and the Texans got off to good starts. I think it was a great Monday Night Football game to have. And for Houston, I feel like they just got to get healthy. They're still missing Tank Dell. Nico Collins is back, but the big thing is he has to stay healthy for Houston. But I want to go back to Tampa Bay for a second. Bucky Irving is such a key piece to this Tampa Bay offense. If he continues to play very good football, they continue to run the ball well and effectively with that offensive line, and have Baker Mayfield continue to play at an elite level like a Pro Bowl quarterback, where at least for his goal to be a Super Bowl quarterback, he's got to continue following that footstep of what Tom Brady did. Continue to work with Egbuka, continue to work with Evans. Godwin will come back. Cade Otton's a big target as a tight end. I think this offense is set. The defense has to play a little bit better down the stretch, but this is going to be a good football team come out the rest of the season.
Absolutely, and I think that Baker has the pieces to do it right now. And, I mean, especially in the division they're in, the NFC South. You got teams like Atlanta who started Michael Penix and got their win on Sunday. So there's other teams in the South that are going to try to compete. New Orleans and Carolina obviously are towards the bottom tier, I would say, in that division. So with Atlanta being their main competition in that South right now. But in the NFC in general, it is tough to compete, of course, with the Philadelphias of the world. So they're on the right path towards going up there in the NFC.
And
do we want to move on to the next
yeah.
team? Oh, I was going to just say, we'll get to Philadelphia, but I was going to go to the other Monday Night Football, the Chargers winning at the Raiders 20-9.
Yeah, I think this was another interesting matchup early in the season. I think Justin Herbert has looked like the quarterback he should when healthy. He could throw the football about 60 yards in the air, which I wish I could do that. Unfortunately, can't. Tried, doesn't work well. But just kind of the way that they've progressed throughout these last 2 weeks. You saw what Ladd McConkey could do. Quentin Johnston's had a really good last 2 couple of games, catching the football. He's not dropping the ball like he was last year. And really just this offensive line is held up a little bit better under Coach Harbaugh. I think the second year under Coach Harbaugh is definitely going to be much bigger for this Chargers team. But you look at the offensive line especially. Joe Alt is an absolute beast up there. He's blocking better than half of the offensive line by himself. And the way that I look at this defense for the Chargers, Khalil Mack, who went down with an injury last night in that game, they're going to have to figure it out defensively. Although it was only 9 points put up by the Raiders, this is a Raiders team that very well could have ran up the football score. Geno Smith has to stop turning the football over. I believe he threw 2 picks in the first half. They just got to find it. They got to find another weapon, especially losing Devontae Adams last year when he went over to the Jets and then now with the Rams. But they have to find that one guy who's going to be their number 1 wide receiver. Jacoby Myers, he's a good option, but he's not really your number 1 guy like Devontae Adams would have been. And they got to figure out how to run the football. Las Vegas has not done a good job running the football. Their pass game, when you throw 2-3 interceptions a game, you have to be able to rely on the run, which they haven't been able to do.
Yeah, and I was really high on the Raiders going into the season, especially with the new regime, with Pete Carroll as the head coach now and Geno Smith at the quarterback position. But then you look at the little mistakes and things like he threw the 3 interceptions last night, the 2 in the first half, like you mentioned as well. But especially against a team like the Chargers, with how good they are, it's really challenging, especially at home, to try and gain a win like that, and they just weren't able to. So you had a Chargers team coming in with a lot of momentum after beating Kansas City on the road in Brazil, and after they played really well in that high-scoring game, they came into Las Vegas and took care of business, and they're going to be playing the Broncos next week, so that'll be an interesting matchup in Week 3 for sure with Justin Herbert against Bo Nix. But getting back to the point, of course, the Chargers taking care of business, going in and getting a win, and Justin Herbert having a great game, and Keenan Allen also a great game as well, 94 yards receiving, so another great game for him as well on the offensive side of the ball. So the Chargers did what they had to do, went to Las Vegas, and 2-0 to start the season.
And then looking forward to the rest of the week, we have Thursday Night Football. Miami is at Buffalo. Miami's 0-2, and Buffalo is 2-0. So I know Jackson is listening. I am not sure if Vargo is, but I sent Jackson and Vargo this Instagram post today that was Mike McDaniel, the Dolphins coach. He said, quote, "To win games, you have to win the game, not lose the game." I think he's kind of begging to get out of Miami, and he does not want to be associated with that team anymore. I don't think he wants to be there anymore. I think he's just kind of waiting to get fired and waiting to go to another team.
I think when you look at the way that this Miami Dolphins team played in Week 1, they played like they weren't ready for Week 1. And I feel like that could be a lot of different things, whether their star players didn't get enough time to play in the preseason, they weren't healthy during training camp, they weren't really active much in OTAs back in May after the draft. But for the Miami Dolphins, your defense gave up 30-plus points against Daniel Jones and the Indianapolis Colts Week 1. Yeah, we don't want to talk about that one. Mm-hmm. Giants fans know. But when you look at this Dolphins team, you have such an opportunity to be successful with the weapons you have. Tua Tagovailoa can throw the football very well when he's not throwing the turnovers, when he's not getting sacked because the offensive line isn't holding up properly. But guys like Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, Devon Achane, those are guys that should be helping you win football games, and right now they're just not. Jalen Waddle's been struggling. Tyreek Hill can't seem to get out of his own way. And for Tua Tagovailoa, same thing with Geno Smith when we were talking about the Chargers-Raiders a moment ago. You can't turn the football over 2-3 times in a game and expect to win. Yeah, you need to win games. You win games by winning games, but you don't win games by turning the football over, and that's something that the Dolphins have continued to do. They have to figure it out, and defensively, it's not helping. When you can't force the turnovers either to get the football back and you're letting teams drive down the field, you're not going to have success throughout the year. And Mike McDaniel's right. You got to find a way to win a game.
I was going to say the one big thing that really begged the question for me was the players-only meeting that they had when Mike McDaniel was kind of asked about that to the media, and they really just – I mean, there's a lot of things that he wasn't just, like, concerned about. It just seemed like he just wanted to stick to his job and do what he had to do. But it shows in week 1 and week 2 when you're not able to win games against a Drake May Patriots team and a Daniel Jones Colts team back in week 1. And going into Buffalo, it's going to be very tough, especially with how the Bills beat the Jets, of course, in week 2, and then the miracle they had in week 1 against the Ravens. But I would say here for Miami, this is really, I think, your season right here, just because of the situation where everything's at and the criticism that's been put on Mike McDaniel and the players only meeting, like I just mentioned before, that's been a big thing as well. So when you have a guy like Josh Allen who's coming into this game, and he had to get removed a little bit from the Jets game in week 2, but got back right in there, and it looked like he might have had to get an x-ray on his nose, but it looked to be okay after. But he should be good for the start for this game on Thursday night. But for the Bills on their defensive side, they're going to have a couple of guys out. Ed Oliver is going to be one of them as well. Matt Milano, another guy to keep your eyes on, who won't be in this game most likely. So that could give your advantage to Miami. But in this game where Mike McDaniel's job is basically on the line, and Buffalo at home, where they play very well at home at Highmark Stadium, I would expect them to take full advantage.
I don't know if I would say Mike McDaniel's job is on the line just yet. I feel like, Buffalo's going to be a really good football team, and it's a tough decision to make if you're the Dolphins organization. But I want to talk about Josh Allen for a second. The way that he's continued to grow from his rookie year to his third year to his fourth year, he continues to grow. Every week it seems like he's doing something better, and that's exactly what you want in your starting quarterback. This football team could have probably been in a Super Bowl for the last 2 or 3 years, but now they've really seemed to find the connection with Keon Coleman, and James Cook has started to pick it up a little bit more, and the offensive line is definitely helping more this year. Yes, Josh Allen's running the football himself, but he's doing it on design plays instead of having to scramble out of the pocket more and risk that hit on a run. So I think Josh Allen has continued to improve, and I'm excited to watch the rest of this Bills season.
Yeah, I mean, running the football and breaking his nose. But so we have about 9 minutes left, and we're just going to go through some Pennsylvania NFL teams, and then Penn State. We'll see how far we get with time. But to start off, we have Steelers. They're 1-1 at Patriots. They're also 1-1.
I'm really interested to see what the Steelers are going to continue to do this year. I think their defense plays a big part of their success if they have the success this year. Yes, we know the situation with Aaron Rodgers coming from the Packers to the Jets. He tore his Achilles his first year with the Jets, really just played last year. But to see the way that the offense moved the football against the Jets in week 1, saw a little bit in week 2 against Seattle. I feel like they should have beaten a Seattle Seahawks team the way that they're banged up right now, the way that Sam Darnold's playing. He hasn't played the greatest these first couple of weeks. But it's interesting because the Patriots' defense has played very good football these first couple weeks of the season. So I think New England could come away with a big win here against an AFC North opponent in the Pittsburgh Steelers. But it's going to come down to Drake May, again, like we've said in the past, turning the football over. If he plays a good, clean football game, I think they beat the Steelers' defense.
Okay.
That's a big take there. I'm surprised by that, too. But I would say, too, I mean, the experience of Aaron Rodgers has come into play. I mean, the first 2 weeks. And the Seattle game, like you mentioned, that was a very winnable game for the Steelers. It was just crucial mistakes that you noticed down the stretch in that game, really, that kind of set them back a little bit and let Sam Darnold and the Seahawks come into Pittsburgh and get a win. But I think this is going to be an interesting game, especially like with the point you mentioned with Drake May. And he's completed 71% of his passes for 517 yards. So that's a key point there, especially with how good he played last week against Miami. That was a big thing, and how we got a lot of his weapons going. So that's going to be a key thing to watch with this young Patriots team, and Mike Vrabel as a first-year head coach. So a nice surprise there, of course. And I think this is going to be an interesting game. It'll probably be back and forth. I think you're going to want to see Aaron Rodgers be throwing the ball a lot probably, and getting the running backs involved as well, and Jaylen Warren getting a lot of touches with the ball as well. So I'm going to say close game, and I think Pittsburgh is going to bounce back.
I was just going to ask you guys, do you have any score predictions for the next two?
I was going to say Pittsburgh in this one against New England.
Okay.
I think New England could win this football game. Like I said, if they don't turn the ball over, I think this is going to be a game that New England can win. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I think I'm going to say 21-17 New England. I think they're going to score on the last drive of the game.
And then the other end of the state, we have Rams. They're 2-0, and the Eagles, they're also 2-0.
I think this is going to be a really good matchup. And we saw two really good matchups last year. You look back at the divisional playoff game where the Rams fell short to the Eagles in Philadelphia. And this Eagles team, yes, they're a very good defense. They're a very good offense. But Jalen Hurts hasn't thrown a touchdown pass this year.
I saw that today.
Jalen Hurts in 2 weeks has not thrown a touchdown pass. The Giants have scored more touchdowns than the Eagles starting quarterback has thrown, which is not usually what happens.
The only NFL team did not score a touchdown pass.
Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was what I was getting at, what I saw.
So for this team to beat the Rams, I feel like this is a good run defense of the Rams, especially with Jared Verse in the middle of it. So if the Rams defense could hold off the run and force Philadelphia to pass the football, it'll be interesting. Now, again, obviously Philadelphia has the weapons in A.J. Brown. They have Dallas Goedert if he's healthy or not. That'll obviously be a question for game time. And then Devontae Smith, he's been quiet to start the year, had a few catches in week 1 against Dallas, had a little bit more in week 2. But I feel like this team, coming off a close win against Dallas week 1, a closer win against Kansas City at that Super Bowl rematch this past Sunday, 20-17. I think this is going to be another very close game, but I think the Rams offensively are going to be able to push a little bit more than Philadelphia, and I know this is a little bit of a hot take, but I think Puka Nacua has one of his best games of his career this week. And one point about Saquon Barkley, he has 4 touchdowns in 1 year against the Rams. Last year it was 4 or 5. I think it was 4 against L.A. between the regular season and the postseason last year. I expect to see Saquon have a big day, but overall I think the Rams take it with their offense.
I'd have to agree with you on that 100%, especially with how the Rams look adding Devontae Adams in the offseason with him alongside Puka Nacua and the veteran experience of Matthew Stafford. I think that brings a lot to the table for what the Rams have built over these past few years, especially with the Super Bowl run they had a couple years ago, beating the Bengals in the Super Bowl. But I think when you look at this game, I think with Philadelphia and how they played last week against Kansas City and kind of the offensive struggle there, but still they mostly focused on running the ball that game, and that was their key to success and getting Saquon Barkley involved. And I think getting the receivers involved as well, like you mentioned, Devontae Smith, and even A.J. Brown as well, another guy who's definitely going to try to get involved more as well on the offensive side of things. But I would say that this is going to be a back-and-forth game as well, and I think the Rams are going to pull it out. We know the conditions were different in the postseason, of course, that being a snow game as well back in January. But I think the Rams are going to win this game, and it is going to be challenging. It's going to be a back-and-forth game, and offense is going to get things going. I think the Eagles are, again, going to be running the ball a lot more. I think you're going to see that, especially that's been their key to success through the first 2 weeks, especially in week 1 against Dallas as well. But I think the Rams, with the weapons they have in the receiving core, I think they're going to take advantage of that and win a close game on the road.
And then we have Penn State. They are 3-0. I think that 3-0 record's a little deceiving by the opponents that they've played, so I think it's going to be interesting to see them play Oregon. I think it's 2 weeks from now. I don't think they play this weekend. I think it's next weekend.
I was looking at tickets to go to that game, and I saw $400 or $500. I said, never mind. We'll do that another year. But I will say, this Penn State team, like you said, it's interesting because of their schedule. They haven't really played that top opponent yet. It's going to definitely be an entertaining game for sure against Oregon. Even losing Dylan Gabriel last year did Oregon to the draft. Of course, him going to Cleveland. But this Oregon team still seems like nothing changed. Like, they got a new quarterback, they got a couple of new receivers, new running back, but it hasn't changed. The offense is still moving the football well. The defense is still putting up good numbers defensively. But for Penn State, you look at Drew Aller, expected to come out of the draft, or go into the draft this year, but Singleton in this run game is going to be the key against Oregon because they have some really good corners in Oregon for the Ducks, but the run game is going to be what could win them this football game for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd have to agree with you 100%. I think with, especially the long break between games too, that's another big thing that's going to come into play as well. And playing a big opponent for the first time in the season, it's a lot of pressure, especially playing at home in the whiteout game, one of the biggest games of the year, of course, for Penn State. And like you mentioned for Drew Aller before, 57 was 88 passes, 626 yards, 4 touchdowns. He's only thrown 1 interception, but still a lot of things to keep your eyes on for him as well, especially with this probably being the biggest game of his collegiate career so far. So it's going to be a lot of things to keep an eye on, especially for him as well in that spot. And I think this game is going to be very interesting to see, especially with Oregon and the stuff that Matt was mentioning before as well with a lot of their changes. So we'll see how it goes, and it's always one of the best games at Penn State every year.
And I know we wanted to talk baseball, but I don't think we have time. I'm a Phillies fan, and then we have 2 Yankees fans over here. But I don't think we have enough time. But if you want to hear MLB, I think that's going to be Thursday. AJ's show.
Tomorrow. Yes, Thursday.
Thursday. So if you want to hear more about how we've talked in our last segment, this last 15 minutes, that roundtable, just talking sports, tune in on Wednesdays and Thursdays when we don't have Pigskin from 8 to 9. And just want to say thank you guys, and it's been a great first show, and thank you to everyone who has tuned in on, obviously, the radio, WQSU, but also Harrison has set up our Facebook